Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Surrey School District Mental Health 40. This is Daniel Toe broadcasting live from the lands of the Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, Coast Salish, and Katzie First Nations. We're very proud and happy to be on their lands doing this wonderful work in mental health. And today, very excited to be broadcasting to staff, students, and families with my former student, actually from Earl Merritt Secondary, Myles Anthony. This channel, we're doing Pro D for teachers. We're giving advice to families and students about mental health and wellness. And Myles actually spoke at our student event. If you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see a promo that we did for a student mental health and wellness event on April 28th. That was. Well, we did a collaboration with Fraser Health and put on an event at Sullivan Heights at the Bell Center, and it was great. Myles was our featured speaker, but I didn't think we got his full story. So what I really wanted to do was invite him here and get his full story, because I think his story can make a difference. It can really change the lives of kids who are thinking about the negative lifestyle or in it already, and giving them some hope of being able to escape that life and be a successful contributor to society. So Myles, welcome to our channel. And whether you're watching live or watching later, we're thankful to have you. If you end up watching live on the Stigma Free Society page or on our YouTube channel, on the Stigma Free Society YouTube channel, or on LinkedIn, it's broadcasting in all those places. Feel free to ask us a question on the side. And if you're not watching and watching after, comment, and I'll try and find your comment after. But Myles, welcome, and please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your story a little bit.
My name is Myles Anthony. I'm from Surrey, British Columbia. Former student of Dr. Toe now. I call him Dr. Toe. Everyone says Daniel, but I was a former student, and I'm a music producer and recently a film producer as well. I'm excited to be here. I thank you for the opportunity to come share and speak more. I had the pleasure of speaking at the mental wellness event on April 28th at Sullivan Heights, which was just an incredible experience. And I look forward to giving you some more insight into a little bit of my journey in life, some of the challenges, the struggles, the success, the failures, all the different things. I'm here to just kind of be an open book for you and hopefully share some things that can really impact the youth and give them some hope in this crazy world that we live in.
Okay, awesome. So why don't we just get right into it? Because we don't have a lot of time. It's actually kind of hot in this room that I'm broadcasting in. I'm sure it is, unless you have air conditioning. I don't. It's quite hot in the district building. But I just thought I want to ask you, your journey through high school. I think I've said before, even in our presentation briefly, that you're one of our class. You're one of my best students, actually. Maybe I've never told you, but you and your brother were two of my best students. You're great writers, very creative. But you didn't really live that perfect student South Surrey life, did you? You shared the story is a little bit different than what we thought it was, even being adults in the school with you every single day.
Yeah, I think I did a very good. I had a poker face. And I kind of just hid what I was facing outside of school. And looking back, I wish I didn't hide so much of it, but I really kind of hid it. And for years and years, I was able to do that till there were points in my life where it kind of weighed too much on me. So we did it. We overcame it, but I'm here to share some insight into some of those things with you guys, and feel free to ask away on anything that you want to know with it.
Absolutely. So why don't we start with your childhood, you growing up? What was that like? And what are some of the things that led you down the path to negative lifestyle choices?
So it really all happened when I was probably around the age of 12. There was something different going on at home. I noticed a lot of changes with my mother, a lot of mental health things going on, a lot of uncontrollable emotions, a lot of panic attacks, a lot of negative things happening at that time. And it came to a point where she was diagnosed with bipolar. And it got to a point where it was so bad that she ended up being admitted to the psych ward. And she was there for months at a time, sometimes weeks at a time, in and out of the hospital my whole youth. Mm-hmm. And that had a very drastic effect on my brother and I's life. So we ended up moving into government housing, and it just really changed our whole life dramatically at that point. So I saw mental health issues at a very, very young age, exposed to, like, having to visit your mom in the psych ward was very, very challenging. That was very, very traumatic looking back. And at that time, I didn't see it that way and didn't really know. But looking back, like, it definitely had a negative effect later in my life. You can kind of connect the dots backwards as you get older and see things differently.
Right.
But another thing with that is her release when she would come out of the hospital was alcohol. So addiction was a very, very big thing in my home life as well. So it created a very, very toxic and unhealthy environment for someone that age.
Okay. So as you're going through school and as you're going through all of these things at home, like, how did you survive school that way? Like, you know, and you know, going through all of these, you know, visiting your mom in a psych ward and living in government housing. You went to South Surrey High School, you know, where the impression is that people are more haves than have not. Yeah. How did you survive that? How did you survive school going through all of that?
Great question. Great question. I believe it was a little bit of an escape, I guess, from that home life. And growing up, it was a decent environment. Like, growing up out there is lots of nice people, lots of great families.
Yeah.
And no one really knew what we were truly facing at home. And I think, again, it was an escape. And in my young years, like, I played sports. I was a dancer, skateboarder. Like, I was very talented and had tons of potential.
And you came second in a contest as well. You entered this breakdancing contest or something. You came in second.
So it was actually at Sullivan Heights too. Okay. So I won a second silver medal at Outbreak at Sullivan Heights, and that was the last time I was on that stage. So it's kind of interesting being back there like 20 some years later.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of an escape. And again, at that age, you kind of don't really know what you're facing. Right. So I didn't really have any guidance at that age, and it kind of started to lead me down the wrong path when it became very, very toxic at home.
Yeah. So when you talk about the wrong path and you talk about some of the negative choices you made, maybe talk about some of those, because we will have young people watching, or their parents, or even teachers, that they can see kids going down that path and look for signs. And, you know, what are some things that you walked down that you now wish, I wish someone would have noticed and got me out of that?
Well, like, first of all, like, there's no food at home. Like, I would go home to an empty fridge. Like, that was a real challenge. Like, we didn't have dinners. We didn't really have anything at home to eat. We were eating from the food bank. So whatever we had was like very little from the food bank. And so that was one thing that led me into kind of heading down the wrong path of, like, dealing drugs, using drugs, skipping class, not applying myself at school and applying myself in the wrong areas, getting involved with the wrong crowd, surrounding myself with much older people, because I know looking back, the reason I seeked attention from hanging out with older men and getting approval from these types of people was because I didn't have a strong father figure in my life. Mm-hmm. So not having a strong father figure in my life really led me to trying to get approval from an older male figure. And these were all the wrong older male figures and people that were leading me down this wrong path. People that, looking back, they were just using me for their own gains and whatever that is. So that was one thing, definitely, is not having the right father figure in my life.
Okay. And what are, like, without getting into too much graphic detail, I'm not doing it for detail's sake, but just for knowledge.
I'm losing you a bit.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, the audio. I'm losing you a bit on the audio.
Oh, weird. I hear some sort of. How about now?
It's all fuzzy.
Oh, this is weird. See, this is what happens when you're broadcasting live. Let me try and reset something. It will be 30 seconds.
Yeah, when you turn your mic on, it goes.
Okay, let's try now. Better?
Oh, a little bit.
Okay. So maybe you can talk, I'll go mute, but why don't you talk about a little bit, just go into, you know, some of the things that you went through in terms of some of the negative lifestyles you got into, and maybe what led to your change to becoming the person you are today.
Yeah, I can't hear anything right now at this moment. I apologize, guys.
You couldn't hear me at all? How about now? You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, just go through your life and go through all the things that you went through to lead you to the person you become today. And what I'll do is I will try and fix my mic as you talk.
Okay, so yeah, like going through high school, like it was really a challenge because I was surrounded by all these great families and things like that. So I remember at times like I would go try to be at my friends' houses for like dinner and like lunch and all these things. So like just to like get a proper meal and just to get proper food, because we went home, it was empty fridges. There's really no guidance in life. So like I remember like trying to be at friends' houses to like seek some sort of guidance from their families. And again, like not having the right father figure led me to hanging out with the wrong people. And this is when I stopped playing sports. I stopped applying myself to all the things that I had talent in, the things I had potential in. Like I can't tell you how much potential I wasted at that age. And I'm not someone that lives with regret, but that's probably the only thing that I look back, I'm like, I wish I applied myself in school. Because if I applied myself in school the way I apply myself to my life today, I would have been a straight A student. I would have been on the honor roll. I would have got college, like whatever. I would have got all these scholarships. I probably would have been drafted for sports, like so many different things I had potential for, and I wasted them because I wanted to surround myself with the wrong people. And this led me to a point where eventually things kind of caught up with me and ended up getting arrested. And this was really the defining moment of my life. Right. This is where everything changed. This is where it's like, okay, you have two options here. You can keep living the way you're living and you're going to end up dead. You're going to end up in jail. You're going to end up on the street as a junkie, or you're not going to end up in a very good place. And I remember sitting in the back of that cop car, and like, I can't tell you this feeling I had. It was the most overpowering. Power is the most powerful feeling I've ever felt in my life. Like it was just all this weight, and it was the longest car ride I have ever had in my entire life.
Right.
And that was the defining moment where I remember telling myself, this is it. You're changing. This is it. You're not living this life anymore. And I was around 20 years old.
So can I just interrupt quickly before?
Yeah, of course.
If you can hear me, hopefully. So you're seeing this cop car, you're thinking you have to change. Like, was it just like an epiphany, or did you sort of flash back to all the things you had done, or just like you knew your future was short if you had, if you continued down this path? Like what led to the epiphany in the cop car?
I would say it was all three, to be completely honest with you. Like I said, this was the shortest, longest moment in my life. Like this was a short moment, but it was it felt like an eternity sitting in the back of that car. Everything was flashing back. Everything was kind of clicking, and it was like an epiphany. And it was also seeing a couple years ahead. But the crazy part is, and any youth that are watching this, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong, and you're telling yourself that when you are doing these things. And I used to do the same thing, but it took me getting to that point, and thankfully that I made that change, because if I didn't, I've lost so many friends to this sort of lifestyle. When I was 19, a friend of mine committed suicide. When I was 21, I lost a friend to violence. After that, it was friend after friend overdosing. There were other friends that have committed suicide. There are friends that have gone to jail. Like, I can't tell you the amount of people that I've lost to this lifestyle, and what that lifestyle really is. And these things, it all comes down to your mental health and your mindset. It all comes down to what's going on inside of your head and that conversation you have with yourself, because we all have an inner speech. We all talk to ourselves. It's not something that's crazy. It's just we're talking to ourselves the wrong way. And we got to start telling ourselves, I can do this. I can be that. I can succeed. I can be better. I can do something different, opposed to saying, I can't do this. I don't have that. Like, it's really comes down to yourself and internally. And luckily, I made that choice to change inside of me. I changed that way I spoke to myself. And that was a huge factor of me being able to succeed in life.
So you make this change, you have this epiphany, then what? Like, do you just instantly stop doing drugs, stop dealing drugs, stop? Did you just go cold turkey, or was it slow change, or?
It was pretty drastically fast, to be completely honest with you. It was like it was go time. It was like, you got to change. And I moved out of my hometown. I moved away. I moved to a new city. I started surrounding myself with new people. I went and got a job. And I remember, like, this first job was like, I don't know, I was making like $8 an hour or something. Yeah. So like, it was like, looking back, I'm like, how do you go from this to that? I'm like, I was making $8 an hour, but I had drive. I had more drive than the other people around me. Because I'm like, I have to succeed. My biggest fear in life was always ending up like my parents. So I was always scared, always thinking so far in the future, like, I can't end up like my parents. But then when I made this change and I started seeing how good I was at anything I applied myself to, when I had belief in myself to do something different, I'm telling you, I went from this $8 an hour part-time employee to promotion within the first few months, to another promotion within the next few months, into management, into all these other things, where it led to a point where I got recruited by the largest tech company in the world. Wow. And this was in the matter of like 3 years, my life had drastically changed. Like night and day difference. Like there was no looking back at that point. There was no looking back.
So I remember I saw you at a Best Buy, and then I saw you at an Apple store. I mean, that's where your career started taking off. I remember you told me. Yeah. So how far were you removed from that negative lifestyle that time?
Oh, completely, absolutely, completely. Okay. Oh yeah, completely gone. Yeah.
Because again, I often share.
I made the change. I decided to change, and I did it.
Because I often shared after you spoke. And people are like, oh, your student's awesome. He was so good. And I say, well, had we known his story when we were at school, maybe we would have made tried to make an impact. Because for me, I saw this perfect kid. Mm-hmm. You always came to my classes, right? So, perfect kid. And then fast forward, I see you killing it at a Best Buy. Or we didn't know the middle part, right? And I think it's such an interesting journey how you got out of it. Right. But you also said that once you got into all the success, there was still more to go to become the person you are today. Why don't you go into a little bit about that? Because I think that part, some people have I was once a gangster and now I'm good story, but you were doing really well. And yet you still dealt with mental health and depression and a lack of wellness. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Hopefully I fixed my mic a bit so you can hear me. So,
yeah. So it really was, I was so focused on the career. I was so focused on the job. I was so focused again on not ending up like my parents and not falling back into my old ways. And it weighed on me. Like it went from, again, like the seasonal part-time employee. So I got a seasonal part-time employee job into management. And then I got recruited to Apple. Like they came after me and headhunted me. And then I went to Apple, ended up working in Silicon Valley. I got sent to Germany. Like 1 year after working for Apple, this was about 3.5 or let's say 4 years after I changed my life, I was being flown to Germany, staying in a 5-star hotel. Amazing. Had a chauffeur with a S-Class Mercedes from Apple and all these things. Like I was named the Apple Canadian ambassador, and I'm the only person to ever. Yeah, so I was the only person still to this day to ever only be given this title.
I didn't even know
there was one person from every country that got named as the ambassador for the country, and that was me. And that was just through hard work, discipline, dedication, and drive. That's all it was. But back to your question, I had great success. By the time I was 24, I owned a brand new home. I had everything I wanted, a beautiful girl. I had a great home. I was making great money. Everything from the outer eye was amazing. And again, I always hid anything that I was dealing with inside. I always hid. Even though I started changing the way I talked to myself, I never faced and accepted the things that I did before, or accepted the home life, or accepted and just faced what we use the word trauma. So I never faced that trauma that I saw when I was a kid. Like I saw a lot of things at a very young age that no kid should ever see. I saw a lot of hurt. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of pain to deal with from my childhood, and I just never dealt with it. I never faced it. I suppressed it. So I just suppressed it for years and years and years until one point Like it was just like a Mack truck hit me. It was like literally out of nowhere. I can't tell you why or how. It's like literally I had too much weight on my shoulders. I had too much weight on my shoulders where I started really having uncontrollable emotions. I started really I started having panic attacks. I started all these things and I didn't know why. I didn't know why until I really realized, it's just you haven't faced and accepted the things that you went through before.
Right, because you just went cold turkey. You switched out of that life, but you never really dealt with that trauma.
Exactly.
Right? And I guess dealing with trauma is important. Why don't you talk a little bit more? Then what's your journey to the person you are today?
So really, again, a big thing into the transition of where I was able to overcome that trauma and that pain and all that stuff was just, first of all, obviously accepting it and just saying, this is it's the past. You can't change the past, and you can't live in the future. So let's live in the present. And that was a big part. And it was really just finally understanding that that's what's made me the person I am today. Is the struggles you go through are what define you. And when you overcome those struggles, it builds something inside of you, and it builds a character, it builds courage, it builds strength, it builds passion, it builds all these things that you can really only get through the hard times. And this is just my opinion. This is from my life and my journey.
Right.
But those are what made me who I am today. And it just allowed, once I accepted it and stopped living in the past and started focusing on the present, what can I do today to become 1% better tomorrow? I'm not going to have a change overnight. I'm not going to become the person that I see myself in 10 years tomorrow, right? So it's like, what can I do today to get to that goal? So there's so many examples I can use to just for other people. But like, for example, if you're looking to get in better shape, what are you going to do today? You're going to get up, you're going to go exercise. Right. If you want to be healthier, you're going to start changing your diet. If you want to play sports, if you want to go to college for basketball, what can you do today? That can be go practice. Well, everybody else is focused on other things. Go to the gym and practice, right? If you want to become a doctor, what are you going to do today? You're going to study. You're going to get up. You're going to take that time to study and learn something that's going to make you that doctor, right? You want to be an actor, you got to practice your lines. So you go practice some lines today, right? I started focusing on the present and what can I do today to get to where I want to be 5-10 years from now. And that's a big transition. Like, this is a long story, so I can go on and on about this stuff, but.
So maybe if I was, we in our last 10, 15 minutes or so, if you were to give advice to kids, sort of like maybe the talk you gave to the students at Sullivan, right? And they're thinking about the negative life, because a lot of people say, oh, you went through it, you got out of it, I could be that person too, right? What advice would you give to kids who are thinking about following the negative life and thinking they can get out of it? Or if someone's already in it, how would they get out of it?
I think a big thing is being true to yourself. And when you know you're doing something wrong, if you have a thought in your head, I'm doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong. Don't question it. You're doing something wrong. Change it. A big thing is surrounding yourself with the right people. And we fall to peer pressure when we're that age. And peer pressure is tough, right? Because you want to be cool, you want to be accepted, you want to impress people. And when you're doing that, you're not being true to yourself. And just stay true to yourself. So if there's something you don't want to do and someone's telling you to do it, don't do it. Like, be true to yourself and embrace who you truly are. Be unique. Don't try to be like anybody else. Find what's unique inside you. Find the uniqueness about yourself and embrace that, because that's what's going to make you successful. Why would you want to be someone else? Be yourself. And you will, trust me, just accepting who you are and allowing yourself to show that to the world, it's life-changing. It's absolutely life-changing. And start working towards your goals one step at a time. Don't be so hard on yourself. Start taking action. So if there's something that you want to do, take action. Don't sit around and wait for someone else to tell you to go do something. Don't wait for someone else to come along. Take action. Invest in yourself. There's so many things. It's endless. It's endless. Like, but I'd say really embrace your uniqueness and take action on your goals. Surround yourself with the right people. For example, here's a great example.
Give it.
Is recently, within the last few months, I saw someone from that I grew up with, and they're like, yeah, we used to always talk about like how you're wasting your potential, how you have so much potential and you're wasting it. And my thought leaving that conversation was, why didn't you tell me that then? Why didn't you tell me that then? Why were you talking to other people about how much potential I'm wasting and how much potential I have? And that goes to surrounding yourself with people sometimes that will tell you things you don't want to hear. So your teachers, when they're being tough on you and telling you you can do a better job, it's because they know you can do a better job. It's not them being mean or them trying to be down on you. It's like they know there's more in you that you can give. So listen to it. Same with your parents, same with mentors, counselors. All these people care, and the reason they're telling you the things that you don't want to hear is because you need to hear them. And that was me back in the day. I didn't want to hear them. And finding out all these people thought I had all this potential is just showing that I wasn't surrounding myself with the right people, because the right people would have wanted to push me in the areas that they saw my potential, not just let me go and succumb to the peer pressure and fall for whatever I was doing.
Well, and I think that, you know, one adult and that person that could make a difference in your life is important, right? I think I'm hearing echo from myself. I don't even know why. This is very strange. It's never happened before. That's okay. I got it now. So do you think that kids need to go through a negative experience to be able to have that epiphany? Or do you think it's possible if they're struggling, you know, grade 8, grade 9, they're in that struggling phase? Do you think the reaching out for someone to help them is possible without going through that journey? Because you always tell me you don't regret your journey, right?
Yeah, I don't regret my journey, because again, this is
that's always the $24 million question, because you don't want anyone to suffer, but sometimes suffering brings epiphany, you know?
So that's a loaded question right there. I guess I could touch on this topic for an hour too. So I think there's two sides to this. I would say if there's something you're dealing with, then speak to someone. Don't hold it in, because you can avoid a lot of the things that I went through. And like, again, we're just touching like on stuff that I went through. Like there's a lot into what I've been through, and even in my 20s and things like that, hitting rock bottom, pulling myself out of it. And I would say if there's a resource or something you can speak to, definitely do it. At least give it a shot. I would also say, though, don't be scared of failure. Don't be scared of mistakes, because we learn our most through those. So it's all about not making the same mistake twice. It's all about falling forward, not falling backward.
Right.
A great analogy is, if you didn't fall when you were a child, you would have never learned to walk, right? So if you didn't fall down and learn to pick yourself up, you would have never learned to continue to walk, right? If you didn't fall off that bike, you would have never learned to continue to ride, right? So I know for myself, my greatest lessons were learned through my failures, through the struggle. I don't think you could 100% know what success feels like if you've never struggled a little bit. If you've never failed, you wouldn't know what an achievement feels like. I'm not saying make the same things that I did, but just in general, don't be hard on yourself if you're going through something. Don't be so hard on yourself if you don't pass that test. You can retake the test. Don't be so hard on yourself if you miss that shot. Don't be so hard on yourself if you don't get that job. Don't be so hard on yourself if you don't get that girl. Like, there's so many things you learn through those, and it's all about just learning from it. There's a blessing in everything we go through in life, both good and bad. There's peaks and valleys, and this is life. If you don't have the lows, you're not going to know what the highs feel like. But talk to someone. If you're dealing with something that's really bothering you, don't hide it. When I was that age, we didn't have all these resources. These things were not talked about as much. Right. It was, and especially as a male, like, I speak from a male standpoint, like we want to be strong. We want to, we don't want to show emotion, but I'm telling you, one day mental health is going to hit you. I don't care how strong you are now. At some point in life, whether you lose a loved one, whether you lose a job, whether you fail at something, like, there's so many different things in life that are going to hit you at some point in life, where if you can start getting control of your mind and building a strong mindset at a younger age, you're going to avoid a lot of the hardships later in life, I would say.
Okay. Well, what have you, and I think it's always good for people who've gone through this to talk about some of the resources, like other than you having, diving into yourself and looking towards, what do I want my life to be? What other resources can you suggest to people that you've used maybe to help yourself? Some books or some videos or people you talk to?
Yeah, for me, it was really reading was huge. Finding books that resonated with me. I think everybody should read Think and Grow Rich. Like, I think everybody should read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I think listening to positive content, you be careful with what content you consume. And that goes with everything. Yeah. That goes, and this comes from a music producer. Yeah. That even goes for music, that goes for the films you watch, that goes for all these things. What you consume into your mind, it goes directly into your subconscious, and it starts creating things in your way of thinking without you knowing it. So you got to really find content that enables the positive side of things. Like, that's why I make a lot of instrumental music now, and I let the listener paint their own picture, right? Because the lyrics in some songs, you may not know it, but that could have a negative impact on your life. Content is huge. Listen to motivational talks. Meditation drastically changed my life. I meditate at least once a day. I journal every day. Okay. I write down my goals every day. I write down my gratitude every day. Like, literally what you do on a daily basis is going to affect tomorrow. So have a vision, write it down, make it clear, think big. The only limit you're putting on yourself in life is the one you put on you. You are your only limit. Nothing else is your limit. So if you put a limit on yourself, that's it. If you tell yourself you can't do something, you're not gonna be able to do it. If you tell yourself you can, trust me, you will. You'll get there. You're gonna do it. If you saw my journal, it's the things I was writing 3 years ago today are happening today, right? Amazing. So these things don't happen overnight. Trust the process, because when you go through the process is where you're learning, and that's when you're becoming your true self. And never stop learning. You should always be trying to increase your potential every single day until your very last breath. I truly believe in that. I truly think sky is the limit, and I hope some of these kids just learn from me. And if I knew what I knew today at that age, I can only imagine where I'd be.
Right. But, for you, you're saying you're not a person of regret, right? So being able to now make that difference. So what's next for you? In the last few minutes, you are a film producer, music producer. You're foraying into public speaking to work with kids. What's next for you in the next few years? If you were to journal today, looking forward in 3 years, what's next for you, Myles?
The next 3 years, is that the question? Yeah, I would say the next 3 years for me is following my purpose in life. And I have a lot of passions. I've tried a lot of different things. I've worked a lot of different great jobs. But I think for me, it's really just giving back and trying to help that person I once was. I remember lying in bed when I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. I remember lying in bed, even sometimes on the floor. Like, there's times where I didn't even have a bed. I was literally lying on the floor. And I remember lying there being like, you're going to become the person you need today, and you're going to share this story that you're going through. And that's exactly where I'm at in my life. It's here. I'm living proof that can happen. And I think for me is really living my purpose now and sharing these things that I've overcome, sharing my mind, sharing my philosophy on life. I'd love to write a book. That's really, I got big dreams, and I think giving back and creating some sort of maybe foundation and really giving to the community and making this world a better place. And that's one step at a time. That's one person at a time. And I look forward to it. Connecting more with you, connecting more with the schools, connecting more with the youth, even young adults, older adults, just giving back. I think giving back is where I'm at. I want to give back.
Well, we are glad to have you at the student event, and hopefully, as I said, everyone loved you. Our planning committee hopefully he can continue to take part in some way, shape, or form. I also know that you do have music out. I would be remiss if I didn't say I listen to your music almost every day, 2 almost meditate. Like it's very different from the music you did before. I love the music before, which has some really well-known artists on it as well. But the music you produce now is thoughtful music. It's music for contemplation. It's music for relax. It's music for doing homework with. So search them out on Spotify and Apple Music and all these things. Have film and TV shows, and your production company is going. I know there's a Hollywood writer strike, but yeah, we're in Vancouver, so hopefully it doesn't affect you as much as it should. But if you were to give in the last minute or so final words to anybody watching this, giving them one piece of advice, if they watch nothing else because my sound went out and everything, if they remember nothing else, what do you want your final message to be to anybody watching today?
My final message, geez, you got some good questions. You got some good questions. Right? Yeah. I would say my final message, my final piece of advice, and this is to absolutely anybody that is just kind of going through something that you could be dealing with it for a while, or something could have just maybe happened in your life. But I think the biggest thing in life and the fastest way to happiness is focusing on something other than your own happiness. Focusing on something that brings you happiness. So for me, that's helping others. And for you, that may be playing sports. For someone else, that may be studying. For someone else, that may be acting. For someone else, that may be music. But the quickest way to happiness, so if you're in that dark mindset and you're like, why me? Why aren't I happy? I want this. Focus on something other than your own happiness, and you'll get there, and bring success to whatever you do in life. Bring success to whatever you do in life, because success isn't something you get. Success is something you become. So Amazing. Bring success to everything you do in life.
Success is not something you get. Success is something you become. I think that is a great phrase to end on, Myles. Thank you so much for joining again. This is not the last we'll see of me, and I'm sure we'll have you on here again to catch up. My hope is that again, a lot of students and teachers probably outside in the sun, and so I'm going to share this link, and hopefully lots of people watch it. And if you have any questions or comments for me or for Myles, leave them in the comments, and my email and everything's going to be in there. Before my sound dies again, I just want to thank everybody, and Myles, thank you. And
thank you.
Don't leave, but I'm going to hang up on everybody else. And thank you for watching. And thank you for watching the Surrey School District and the Stigma Free Society live YouTube broadcast. We hope to see you again in June for our last broadcast before the summer. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.